Hello, good evening, and welcome. I'm John Lazarus with Stories Matter and D&E Publishing. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever wanted to write a fictional book about Prussian kings, telegraph operators, or pirates, but thought to yourself, hey, these don't exist anymore. How can I write about that? Fortunately, you're in luck. There's a whole world of fictional literature waiting for you. It's called historical fiction, and it centers on things that sort of, but didn't actually happen in the past. We'll explore it in today's video, but first, a word from our sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by World Book Encyclopedias. The perfect gift for any nerd who needs to work on their upper body strength, this 22-volume set offers a colorful, limited list of facts on a finite number of topics. Not only do these paperback sets eliminate LED radiation exposure that will permanently blind users of online encyclopedias, they will also confuse and thwart burglars who assume they've traveled back in time after they've entered your house. Call World Book today to see if encyclopedias are right for you. Now, there are a lot of great reasons for setting your story in the past. Revealing buried history, piggybacking on popular trends, appealing to old people, appealing to readers who want to relive a simpler and more racist time, and just because. There are several ways to approach historical fiction. Some writers hew very close to real events. The Remains of the Day is a great example. While the book's characters are completely fabricated, it's safe to say that most of the British aristocracy were Nazi sympathizers until it became socially distasteful to be one. Other famous works write about periods of history through the lens of magical realism and fantasy. Lincoln in the Bardo, The Underground Railroad, and Magic Treehouse No. 32, Night of the Ninjas are all great recent examples. You also have the subgenre of alternate history, where past events are resolved differently than they were in real life. The Plot Against America, The Man in High Castle, and my novel Tippecanoe, about how 19th century banking regulations would have been different if William Henry Harrison hadn't died 40 days into his office, are all great examples of the genre. In today's video, we'll ignore the latter two and just focus on the first one. Step 1. Pick an ignored or neglected period of history. Like any other genre, you've got to find ways to stand out. Choosing to write about World War II or any other war America won is not a great way to do this. Remember, your reader is reading this book to prove they know something their friends don't, without seeming like a total nerd that reads nonfiction in their spare time. So how do you choose? Well, there are different ways you could do this. 1. Print out a list of 200 or 300 wars. Visit your local library and ask the librarian if they have books on each war. Once she says no, that's the war you could focus on. 2. Make a list of 100 or 200 objects in your house and hang it on your wall. Throw a dart at the list. Whatever you land on, ask Google when that thing was invented. Then set your book in that time period. Or just go wild with it. People thought I was crazy to write a book set in 1 million BC about the first humans that decided to walk upright. But it's now Amazon's third best-selling book set in the Pleistocene. Step 2. Do your research. Notice something wrong with this picture? That's right. In Jesus' time, the doorknob had not been invented yet. Mistakes like this can cost you readers. If research feels like a chore, find some shortcuts. When I taught creative writing at the Learning Annex, I crowdsourced my research by assigning the class to write their own historical fiction about life during, for example, the reign of King Ramses II, and borrowed some of the details in my own writing. If you want a voice of authority, you should consider the history department at your local university. Of course, if you tell them you're a fiction writer who needs fact-checking, they'll ask for a hefty fee in return. So that's why I pretend to be a renegade Italian professor who's unearthed shocking new information about the period of time in which I'm writing. History professors, like all academics, have fragile egos and too much spare time, and will willingly dispute my facts free of charge. Step 3. Stick with modern dialogue. It's safe to say people in the past didn't speak like us. They didn't use words like Google and Starbucks and thirsty simp. In Victorian England, bitch the pot meant to pour some tea. Today the phrase might be used to exclaim there's something amiss with your cannabis to a female companion. The occasional slang or phrase might be okay, but full-blown authenticity isn't necessary and is more distracting than helpful. First of all, it doesn't make a lot of sense for a Tang Dynasty poet or the officers of a Roman legion to be speaking modern English anyway. I realized this after my version of The Sword and the Stone, written in Old English, sold only 4 copies in its first year. But secondly, people in the past couldn't get through 3 or 4 sentences without a racial or sexist slur. As authentic as it may be, unless you're black or a woman, and YouTube tells me that's unlikely, this could cost you readers. Similarly, this is why I never set any of my stories in Boston. Step 4. Create your own characters. You always have the option of writing about real people from history, but unless you're writing an alternate history, you'll find yourself very constrained. It's also hard to create compelling narrative arcs out of people who drowned while doing laundry, or shit themselves to death, or died because they had sex with a horse. Also, try to shy away from focusing on stories about rich white men. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's a proven fact that 95% of all the best stories are about white men, but it'll be hard to stand out in a crowd if you're doing what everyone else has already done. Your characters are a lens through which we observe your historical era, so I suggest writing from the perspective of unsung heroes, people like schoolmarms, like indigenous warriors, like a lesbian vegan Pashtun watchmaker. When I wrote The Twins from Siam, about two conjoined twins that join a freak show to support the war effort of the Americans against the Spanish, I realized I could look at the history through 4 eyes and 4 ears and 2 noses. With all that extra sensory information, it opened up a whole new perspective of that era of history. Well, that's all for this time. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll leave you with this week's This Day in Literary History. See you on the next one.